your trainer, Mark Breland, disloyal, obviously, for throwing in the towel in the fight. You later said that you believe that he spiked your water. Really believe that, though, do you?
It's hard to believe a lot of things, but you got to understand, Brian, we're in boxing. I don't know what, how to sit. Everybody have a chair in positions in boxing. Certain things, it's hard to believe. Certain things, you wouldn't think to believe, but dirt boxing is the dirty sport. You got to keep your grass cut, especially with the ones close to you. So I advise all fighters to wait your team around the people's around you. You always get people smiling in your face. I've always had fake love from people all over in boxing. I'm saying, and I know I'm very special. I can feel it. I can sense it.
So Deontay Wilder comes out once again and claims that he believes Mark Breland sparked his water. Now, what made me laugh was Brian Custer. He was like, yo, you really don't believe that shit, do you? You really don't believe that, do you? Because, at the point where the spiked water, okay, if it was just one side, even if it was just Tyson Fury cheated me, okay, gloves, something he had in it, whatever, that should be enough. Don't you think that shit should be enough right there? But then to say, you know what? That wasn't the only thing. Mark Breland had something to do with it too. They co-conspired against me. It is almost like, yo, that's one of those go-to quick responses, like those quick, how you you have text message suggestions, when someone asks you something and you're like, hey, how are you today? I'm like, good, and you, or some shit like that. When you hear something like that, a quick response for that would be bullshit. You know what I mean? Because it's that easy to see, and because he was like, this is something I believe, and you got to keep your grass cut, meaning that he thought Mark Breland was the snake in the grass. You got to keep your grass cut, and people smile in your face all the time. They want to take your place, the backstabbers. Sounds like some shit he was trying to say, you know what I mean? But he was saying, those things, but Brian Custer was like asking him that, like, he doesn't even believe what the fuck he was saying. Like, do you really believe the shit you really saying right now? Do you believe this? Do you really believe that? And then he did say, like, a lot of people you don't want to believe. You know what I mean? At least, he said something like, okay, you don't, sometimes some things you don't want to believe, but boxing is a shitty sport. So let's continue. This is getting good. So
it ain't no coincidence that, when I got cheated, everybody wanted to, come out with the fake love. I've been, it ain't faking when I'm already aware of it. I'm saying so.
Now let me counterpunch what he just said. Now he did say something that made a lot of sense. Okay, the fake love. Now he's on point with that. It was a lot of people that was like, oh, Deontay, we like you. Let me judge you. Let me train you or whatever. Let me make you better. And I know who he was talking about. He doesn't have to talk about that to know who the hell he was talking about. He was talking about Floyd Mayweather. That's what he was talking about. He might have mentioned, but I know that was the one that popped in right there. That was Floyd Mayweather. Because Floyd all of a sudden wanted to train Deontay Wilder after he'd been, of course, beaten. And, and I think he wanted to come around when he found out Mark Breland was iced, was canned, was fired. So, and I do think that was some fake love shit, because I don't think Mayweather really cared for Wilder like that. I think because, once again, Mayweather is a guy, he's coming back in 2021 to fight some fucking body, who knows? But that shows you as evidence that Mayweather himself, he cannot stand to be out the spotlight, great talent, one of the best to put on the gloves, but personality wise, he doesn't like to be compared to anyone. He doesn't like to share that spotlight with anyone. He doesn't like someone to come in threatening areas of overcoming him or trumping him. When Adrian Broner did it, he blasts Adrian Broner. When other fighters did it, he blasts those other fighters. When they started mentioning Deontay Wilder, because he was in the 40s at that point, right? The 40 wins, without no losses, no draws. And then he had more knockouts. People started to talk, okay? So at that point, Mayweather was like, you know what? I think Wilder, I don't think he can fight. I think Tyson Fury's beating him. That type of thing. So, you know, but I think that's what it was, because I think that was really out of the blue that Mayweather did started training or wanted to train or offer to train Deontay Wilder, which he never did it when he was undefeated. So good counterpunch from Deontay Wilder. However, I will say this to be fair on Mayweather's behalf. He did start training Devin Haney and Gervonta Tank Davis, and giving them pointers. So maybe, just maybe, all right, that may be something which Mayweather is learning to give back partially. You know what I mean? To give back partially, which before he didn't even really consider doing in my mind. But anyway, I just had to go there. So let's continue.
That is what it is, but main issue, Mark throwing in the towel. I've been preaching 5 years. No, never throw a towel in with Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is never out until it's over with. I'm saying, because of what I'm capable of doing, because of my heart and will, to the power that I possess, never out, and he knows that. And I do feel like he was a part of it as well.
Why? But why?
Ryan, think about it all. At the end of the day, you go to work, boss tell you not to do something, you do it, what's going to happen?
Be reprimanded, obviously.
Exactly. That just point blank, period. We don't even have to get in all the other stuff. The boss said something. They work for me. I don't work for them. Specific.
No, what I was saying is,
and then he went against the first. Jay told him not to do that. He went against all that. He didn't even warn me that he was going to do it. It's a lot of things that add up to it, because if you're a great trainer, you're supposed to, hey, champ, I'm good, baby. I'm going to throw the towel in, you know what I'm saying? None of that, not no rounds or nothing. So it's a lot add up to that. People just seeing, he fired this and that, but they don't know nothing.
Okay, let me counterpunch on that. Good stuff. Of course, Brian was like, well, why? But, because, like he said, they work for me. I don't work for them. And I've been telling them 5 years. He said, if a boss tells you not to do something and you do it, what do? Well, you're going to get recommended, meaning you're going to get rolled up, not fired. So good counterpunch for Brian, the way he worded it. So, not, you're going to take me out. But Wilder did come forth and say, you know what? At any time, he said there wasn't any time that through that whole 7 rounds that Mark said, hey, I'm going to stop the fight. And he said, if you were a good trainer, he said, well, if you were a good trainer, you would at least warn your fighter that, hey, I'm going to stop the fight. Now that, that is valid, because a lot of fighters will let you know, like a lot of trainers will let their fighters know that, hey, if you do not perform the way we are telling you or instructing you to perform and getting things done, we're going to pull the plug because you're taking too much damage. Okay. Now that's a good point. However, okay, we got to look at everything. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Mark Breland didn't mention that to anybody else. So ultimately, he felt he didn't have to ask Deontay Wilder if he asked Deas, right? Because before that, he did say, hey, I want to jump in the towel and I want to throw in the towel. Previous. I don't know how many rounds previous, so I'm not going into that. But I know previous, at a point in time, he did ask Deas, like, hey, I want to throw this towel in. And then Deas told him not to. Okay, so that should have been a case of you do what I tell you to do, but your trainer asked your head trainer if he could, and he could not. And the trainer did it anyway. Now, you could say, okay, well, that's grounds for termination because you went against not only me, but because you didn't tell me, but you also went against the head trainer. Now, for that reason, I can understand, like, okay, for that. However, the problem is, if Wilder felt that Tyson Fury on his end cheated, the fucking fight should have been stopped. And it should have been stopped due to, hey, something's going on with that man's gloves, and we need to find out what the fuck. On top of, I got a woozy ass fighter because I think that he has been spiked or drugged. If any of those things are true, okay, any of them, Not just saying both or one. If one out of two of those things are true, or both of any of those things, again, are true, that fight should have been stopped. Okay? That fight should have been stopped. Point blank and period. And since it was stopped in the 7th round, you know, and he's saying, oh, well, it was spiked. I don't believe it was spiked. For one, it didn't go fucking 12 rounds. How much? There's 36 minutes, right? 36 minutes in the ring. But it's an hour total. So that you may add another 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 in the ring doing announcements and stuff like that. Right? Then you go back to the dressing room. Then, you know, you draw the blood test. The piss test or whatever. Maybe blood or urine, but more likely urine. That would have popped up in that fucking test if he was drugged. And I gotta keep saying that. But this by itself with Mark Breland was fired because he did something that he was told not to do. And said, according to Deontay Wilder, the motherfucker didn't tell me that he was going to throw in the towel. That's why I fired him. Okay, I could see that. But here's my problem, and here's the counterpunch, and I'm going to conclude with this, okay? If Mark Breland told Deas previous that hey, I need to stop the towel, that means Deas should have asked Deontay Wilder or informed Deontay Wilder or what at least Mark Breland recommended doing. Counterpunch. If that makes sense, right? Because if Mark Breland told him that, and he had to tell the head trainer, it's up to the head trainer to tell his boss, which his boss is who? Deontay Wilder. He had to tell Deontay Wilder, like, yo, listen, Mark was talking about throwing in the towel. You know what I mean? And I trust Mark. So do you think you need this towel thrown in? Are you okay? Can you continue? See, obviously, just what Deontay said, none of this shit took place. So it's not just Mark's fault. Again, Deas's fault too. And this is one question I'm gonna leave you guys with, okay, before I go. If Mark Breland wouldn't have threw in that towel, what are the chances you think that Mark Breland would have been accused of spiking Deontay's water? Boom, mic drop. You guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe, and you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.